Ding me.
Welcome back, gamers. Gordon here. Today we're doing another turn-by-turn video. Today's turn-by-turn video is for a game that blends 8-bit video game with conventional tabletop card game. Today's game, Boss Monster. Boss Monster is a 2 to 4 player card game. It plays in about 30 minutes and it's published by Brotherwise Games. In Boss Monster, you actually get to play the boss monster. You're going to be building rooms and dungeons, and heroes are going to be running through trying to get to you, the boss monster, before you can kill them. Today I'm going to be taking you through turn by turn of the game just to show you how it plays and to give you a better understanding of the game, to see if this game is something that you might enjoy. If you want to see a complete setup and overview video, watch our Set It Up video for Boss Monster. But today, I'll be taking you through turn by turn. So let's jump in, let's play some Boss Monster. Hey guys, just a real quick side note. I watched the video after recording it, and I noticed that I didn't really show a lot of the room abilities on the cards, and I didn't play a lot of spells. I was trying to get to the video pretty quickly, so the video wasn't like 3 days long, and you guys are bored to tears. There's a lot more depth and complexity to the game than what my video shows, and I just want to let you know that because I want to give the game a fair shake. I don't want you to think the game is super basic and super boring, but it's really not. It can be a lot of fun. There's a lot more abilities on the cards. I wasn't paying attention to them that much, but I also didn't draw a lot of room cards to begin with, so I didn't really have a lot of room abilities to play, and it just would have lengthened the video too long. So with that, let's get back to the video and let you guys get a good look at how it plays turn by turn. So let's play some Boss Monster. I've got the cards kind of set up here. You got 5 different decks of cards in Boss Monster. But before we jump into the cards, I just want to preface to say that this is not going to be in-depth strategy for Boss Monster. I'm going to try to play these pretty quick. So the cards I play may not make a lot of sense, only because I'm trying to get to the video, so the video is not incredibly long. But in Boss Monster, you get to take on the role of a boss monster from an 8-bit era video game. And in the game, you're going to be building dungeon rooms to attract heroes in to try to vanquish those heroes. The player at the end of the game that either has 10 souls or is the last boss standing, and that would be the boss that has not acquired 5 wounds, that is your winner. So with that, let's start up Boss Monster with the first thing. We're going to do a quick setup here, just so you can see how the cards kind of set up and kind of we do the pre-setup before we actually begin our first turn. Each player, and I'm going to play this as a 2-player game, so each player is going to pick out a random Boss Monster card from the boss deck, and that is going to be who each player is going to be playing in the game. So player 2 will be Cleopatra, and player 1 will be Draculord. And the only number really to keep track of right now is the bottom left number is the experience number, and that just gives you the turn order during the build phase in the game and the adventure phase in the game. So Draculord has 900, Cleopatra has 850, so Draculord is going to be the first player in the turn order when it comes to those 2 phases. The next thing you're going to do is you're just going to set these boss cards to the side. As we did, and that you didn't see, I pulled out all the 3-player and 4-player cards from both the hero and the epic hero deck, and all that does is just kind of shrinks down the deck so the game can play a little bit quicker for a 2-player game. I already pulled those to the side, so you're not going to need those cards for the rest of the game. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to deal off 5 cards from the room deck to each player, and then 2 cards from the spell deck. And then each player is going to look through those cards and decide which 5 do they want to keep. So they're going to be discarding 2 into the discard pile, and you're going to have 1 discard pile for both the spell and the room deck. It's just a master general discard pile. So I'll look at Cleopatra here and see which cards they're going to keep for their first start. Get rid of that. And maybe get rid of this. Like I said, I'm going to play pretty quick. This is not going to be a compelling game because I'm going to begin playing first player and second player. So either way I win and either way I lose. So that sets up the first start of the game in terms of dealing out cards. Both players are now going to decide which room they want to build before the game actually starts. So each player gets to build one room prior to game start. So for Draculord, we'll play this card as their first room, and your dungeon can have up a total of 5 cards. You're going to have 5 rooms in your dungeon. That's the maximum number. So Cleopatra is going to play that room, and that kind of concludes the pre-setup of the game. One other thing I want to quickly mention here is that I'm going to play enough turns to get both bosses up to those 5 rooms. And then I'm going to fast forward to the end of the game and show you kind of how the game wraps up. Most of the middle gameplay is going to be just like I'm going to show you through the first 5 room builds. I just want to fast forward to the end because the video actually gets really, really long, and I don't think you want to sit here through a 45, 50-minute video of the same kind of turns. I'd rather just show you how the game gets nice and warmed up with the first 5 rooms. That'll show you how the boss actually levels up in the game, and then I'll take you to the end of the game and show you how the epic conclusion of Boss Monster for this turn-by-turn video. So, both players have built their room, and that is the conclusion of the pre-setup. So now both players are going to actually sit back and let the 2 first heroes get revealed from the hero deck. And you're going to place those in town. And these 2 heroes exist in town, and then both players then draw 1 room card from the room deck. And then we go into the build phase, and that's one of the first phases of the game. We have beginning of turn, build phase, then we have the bait phase, then we have the adventure phase, and then we have the end of turn phase. So there's kind of like 5 parts to each round. And right now we're going to go into the build phase, which is the second part of the first round, and that starts with Draculord since he has the highest XP, that 900 versus Cleopatra's 850. So Draculord is going to look at their rooms and see which room they want to build next on their dungeon. We'll build this, and then we're going to flip over to Cleopatra's side of the table and see which room they're going to build. Alright, so now we're here at Cleopatra's side of the table, and we're going to look to see which room they want to build. And then you could also be playing spells during different build or adventure phases. So you also want to keep in mind what kind of spell cards you have to see if you want to try to stop other players from doing things or maybe try to boost your own efforts. We're looking at the hero cards out here. They have a cleric and a thief, and they both have their own unique treasure icon is what they're going to be searching for. Cleopatra is going to look across the table, see that Draculord actually has 1 thief icon, but the thief has a value of 8 health, so it looks like that might actually hurt them. So we're going to try not to play any thief icons and let that one go. So we'll play the Dark Altar here. And also keep in mind, you don't have to play room cards. It's up to you to play a room card, but I'm going to keep playing them just so you can see how the turns play out. Probably in this case, I may not have played that card, but like I said, not a lot of strategy here. Just want to show you how the game plays turn by turn. So now both players have built their room. Now we move into the third part of each round, which is the bait phase. And this is where we're going to be trying to lure the heroes into our dungeon to try to kill them off. So we look at the symbols up here, starting with the cleric. And the cleric is actually going to go down here to Cleopatra because the Cleopatra has 2 cleric symbols in their first room of their dungeon, and Draculord only has the 1 cleric symbol. So Cleopatra actually is going to pick this card up since they beat Draculord in terms of this treasure icon. The thief icon is going to go down to Draculord. So the Draculord is going to pick up the thief. Actually, I take that back. It's a tie because I didn't look. Cleopatra actually has a thief icon as well. So the treasure icons are a tie between Cleopatra and Draculord. So now we're going to move into the adventure phase. And the adventure phase is when you actually run those heroes that you lured to your dungeon through the dungeon. So we'll start by having only Cleopatra has the only hero at this point. So we start with Cleopatra. The hero has a health of 6, which is the bottom left-hand icon for this particular cleric. It's going to go into the first room and take 1 point of damage, which is the number in the bottom left of the room card, is the black heart. So that's -1, so the cleric's down to 5 health. And then we go into the last room of their dungeon, which has 3 damage, which takes it down to 2 health. But that means the cleric is actually going to survive the dungeon. It's going to go through all the way to Cleopatra, and it's going to cause 1 wound. So now we move into the end of turn, and the end of turn is where you just kind of tally up the scores, see if there's any winners or losers, and then also reactivate any rooms that may have been deactivated through spells or other room effects. None here in this case. So what we're going to do is we start the very next round, and we do that by revealing 2 more heroes out in town. Now the last hero still stays in town since no boss was able to lure them into the dungeon, and this card still stays as the first draw card out in town. And you're going to go through all the hero cards before we actually enter to the epic hero cards. The epic heroes only start happening once we've extinguished all the cards in the normal hero deck. So now we're going to go into the build phase, and that's actually going to start with Draculord. So we're going to flip the table around here, and we're going to look at Draculord's hand and see what they're going to build. We're back on Draculord's side. The one thing we didn't do previous, though, is both players will pick up a new room card off the room deck. So every beginning of the build phase, or every beginning of the beginning turn phase, you're going to reveal 2 heroes, draw 1 card. So Draculord has their room, and they're looking at the icons out here on the table in town to see what heroes are going to be possibly coming over to them. Also looking at the strength of the health to see if they're going to take a lot of damage or they're going to be able to beat these heroes very easily. So they're actually going to play it kind of risky here, and they're going to play another room card here that has another thief icon, which is going to take them up to 2 total, since we have 3 thieves out in the hero town. So now we go back over to Cleopatra, and we're going to see what room they're going to build. Okay, we're back over here to Cleopatra. We're going to take a look at the cards that they picked up. They know that Draculord has played that card to try to get that second thief icon. They're going to try to do the same thing, and they're going to play this advanced recycling center room. It's an advanced trap room, and it just says when another room in your dungeon is destroyed, you may draw 2 cards. So right now the room effects for both players really aren't doing much. Looks like 2 cards here for destroying, and then if spell cards are being played. So now both players have 2 thief icons. And then we'll go ahead and play a spell card for Cleopatra, and she is going to choose the freeze spell and choose and deactivate 1 room in any dungeon. It has no damage, treasure, or abilities until the end of turn. So if they play that on just this card here, we'll deactivate that room, which then takes that room almost like it's completely out of play. So now we're going to go into the bait or the lure phase, and we're going to see which heroes are going to come to which dungeons. And since Cleopatra played that spell card, that takes Draculord down to only 1 thief icon. So actually all 3 of these thieves are going to come over to Cleopatra's dungeon, and no heroes are going to be going to Draculord. So now we're going to run these heroes through this dungeon. We can see right now, we can quickly do the math that we have damage. Our dungeon right now for Cleopatra has a damage output of 7. The thief is actually going to go all the way through the dungeon through Cleopatra and to cause another wound. So that takes him up to 2 wounds. But the thief, the second hero thief, is going to die before it gets through the last room. So that is actually going to count as 1 soul for Cleopatra. And then the last thief hero is also going to die in the second room. So because it only had a health of 4, but your damage of 4 by the second room takes that hero and kills them as well. So now Cleopatra has 2 wounds and 2 souls. That concludes the adventure phase for this round. We would then go into end of turn. We would look to see if there's any rooms that need to be activated, and we do. We discard this spell card. We reactivate the card over here for Draculord, and then we reveal 2 new heroes in town. Each player is going to pick up a card off the room deck. And then we are going to start again with the next build phase, starting with Draculord. So let's go back over to that side of the table and see how Draculord is going to build up their dungeon. All right, back to Draculord. Just looking to see what they have out in the hero town to see which icons we might want to match. And we're going to probably play this room right here, the Dracolich Lair. It's an advanced monster room. Once per turn, you may discard 2 room cards to choose 1 room card from the discard pile and put it into your hand. So we're not going to do that. So that's going to conclude the build phase for Draculord. Now let's move back to Cleopatra and see what they're going to build in their dungeon. All right, back to Cleopatra side. Looking to see what they have, seeing that there's a cleric and mage out there. Both are pretty tough. But for the sake of this, we're going to pretend these are both new players and they're not seasoned veterans of boss monster. So we're just going to throw out this haunted library card. And now we're going to do the bait phase. We're going to see which cards or which heroes go where. Cleopatra has 2 clerics. Draculord also has 2 clerics, so the cleric stays in town. It's not going to go anywhere. And then we have a mage. The mage icons for Draculord is 1. The mage icons for Cleopatra is 2. So this hero is actually going to travel to Cleopatra's dungeon. And then we begin the adventure phase. And the adventure phase just starts. First, you can see if you have any spells you want to play, but then we do not. So then we're going to move the mage through Cleopatra's dungeon and see if Cleopatra can destroy this hero. It has a health of 8, so we move through doing the math. 8 minus 1, 7, minus 3, 4, minus 1, 3, minus 3. Yes, the mage is defeated. We had the exact number of damage to match the exact number of mage. I honestly didn't think this card was going to make it through, but it did. So that counts as another soul for Cleopatra. So then we go to the end of turn, and the end of turn is activating the rooms. None need to be reactivated. We look at the score here. Cleopatra, 3 souls, 2 wounds. Draculord is got nada. So now we're going to go ahead and flip over 2 more heroes in town. Both players again are going to pull a room card off the room deck. And then we're going to go back to Draculord and see what room they're going to build to start up the next build phase. All right, we're back to the side of Draculord, see which room they're going to build. And this is actually going to be the 5th room. The 5th room, when you build your 5th room, that's when you're going to activate your level up text on your boss monster. And you're only going to do that 1 time in the game. So once you hit that 5th place or 5th room, you're going to activate that power 1 time. Looking at the heroes out here, we have 2 mages and a cleric. So we're going to play... We'll play this card, which I actually missed previous, so it'll give us a chance to show you what this card actually does. It's the Mimic Vault. It's a trap room. When you build this room, choose 1 ordinary hero in town and place it at the entrance of your dungeon. So this is going to allow Draculord to actually pull any hero of his choice over to his dungeon, and he's going to pull the cleric because it looks like he may not be getting the cleric, and it looks like Cleopatra actually might. So we're going to go ahead and pull that hero over and put it in kind of the waiting area for when we do the adventure phase. That would conclude... No, that does not conclude. Yes. That concludes Draculord's build phase. Now let's move back over to Cleopatra and see which room they're going to build in their dungeon. But first, I almost forgot, Draculord does level up since we built that 5th room. Target opponent reveals his or her hand to you. Take 1 card and put it into your hand. So you're going to pick a player. So since this is a 2-player, I'm going to pick obviously the 2nd player. I'm going to look at their hand, and then I'm going to take 1 card from them. Not a lot to take here, honestly, so we'll just take this and place it back. So that was Draculord's level up power, and that is now extinguished, and that won't be used again in the game. So now let's go over to Cleopatra and see what 5th room they're going to build. All right, Cleopatra's turn. Looking at the 2 mages out there, we don't have any mage icons, so we're not going to really get anything there. But I think we're still going to be stopping the other player, Draculord, from pulling anything. And we're going to go ahead and place this card out, since it has a fighter icon and a thief icon, and try to create that diversity in your dungeon. You want to try to create high damage output, but then also be diversifying the types of treasure icons that you actually have in your room, so you can kind of pull more heroes from town. Cleopatra is now going to level up since we did that 5th room in the dungeon, And Cleopatra, the mother of mummies, her level up power is search the room deck or discard pile for an advanced trap room. You may immediately build the room over a room with a matching treasure type. So we can look in the discard pile for an advanced trap room. There are none. So we're going to go directly to the room deck and see if we can find an advanced trap room. Don't want that one. And we might actually pick this one up here because it has a lot of damage. So, and we're going to immediately build it. And the thing here about the rooms, once you get through 5 rooms, that's not the end of your dungeon building quest in this game. You get your five maximum rooms. You're still going to be trying to build that dungeon up to get it, again, the highest damage output that you can, because the epic heroes are going to be a little bit tougher once they pop up. But then also you want to keep diversifying the types of treasure icons you can use. So what you'll be doing is you're still going to be collecting room cards, and you can actually build normal rooms right on top of other rooms. And you can build a normal room on top of any other room. It does not matter. Advanced room cards can only be built on top of rooms that have matching icons. So for this instance, the Beast Menagerie, it has a fighter treasure icon. So that means it can only be built on top of another room that has the treasure icon that matches it. So fighter to fighter, we're going to build it right on top of the construction zone, and that is going to replace that room right there. So you can keep stacking cards on top of rooms to try to change the dynamics of your dungeon, so you can keep making it stronger, so that you keep killing off heroes and not taking those wounds. So that's Cleopatra leveled up, and that's the 5th room for her as well. Now we're going to be moving into the bait phase, and the bait phase is, we have these 2 mages that are sitting out here, and both heroes have 2 mage icons in their dungeon, so that means no players are going to be attracting those mages. And then we're going to move directly to the end of turn, check the score, 2 wounds, 3 souls to still, sorry, I almost skipped a step here. We're going to go to the adventure phase. I forgot that Draculord actually pulled that one hero over with that level up power. So let's go back to Draculord, see how he handles that cleric, and then we'll be ready for the end of turn. All right, back to Draculord. It has this one hero, almost forgot it since they pulled it up whenever they leveled up. The cleric, 4 health, it's going to die right when it reaches that 2nd room. So Draculord is actually going to pull in 1 soul. That concludes the adventure phase, and now we move to the end of turn, where we'd reactivate any rooms. None here. Compare score. We have 1 soul for Draculord, 3 souls for Cleopatra, but she also has 2 wounds. Then we're going to start up the next turn by revealing 2 more heroes. Each player draws 1 room card, and then we're going to start with the next build phase, starting with Draculord. I, however, am going to fast forward you to the end of the game to show you how the game concludes, because the game is going to play pretty much the same way through the whole game, but I do want to show you how the game ends and how it could end. In this particular scenario, it can end either way. Somebody can get too many wounds, or somebody can reach those 10 souls. So sit back and stay tuned for the last part of the video, which is going to be the epic conclusion of the boss monster turn by turn. Alright, I said I would tune you into the epic conclusion. I don't know how epic it's going to be, but just to catch you up, the plays actually did take a little bit to get through. I almost went all the way through the epic hero deck before I got to this point in the game where the game is going to end. The last play of the game was the build phase, and Draculord continued to build up their dungeon, you want to keep trying to raise that damage output, because once the epic heroes come out, you can see that they have damage or health of 13, 13, 11, 11, so they're much stronger. So sometimes you don't always get the icons that you want, but you're still trying to get those the damage output up. So Draculord placed the Brainsucker Hive on their dungeon to try to see if they can pull or prevent the 2 mages from going. However, And then Cleopatra, they built nothing because all the cards they have in their hand were only 1 damage for each room. And like I said, you got to keep the damage output up. Otherwise, you're going to be those heroes are going to just fly through your dungeon, and then you're going to be taking those wounds and you're going to lose. So let's jump over to Cleopatra's side of the table and let's see how they're going to handle, because if we do, I guess first we probably should do the lure phase, the bait phase. Sorry about that. What's going to happen here is the Fool, it has a little question mark. And that just simply means that the Fool is lured to the dungeon of the player with the fewest souls. So right now, Cleopatra has the fewest souls. So the Fool is going to go over here to Cleopatra. The mages still tie break. They're still fighting back and forth in those mages. So those are going to go nowhere. The thieves, however, there's only 1 icon for Draculord, 2 icons for Cleopatra. So these 2 thieves are going to go over here to Cleopatra. Now we're going to go over to Cleopatra's side and see how those heroes are going to make it through her dungeon in the adventure phase. Nothing's going to be happening on Draculord, so let's check it out. Alright, so now we're back over here to Cleopatra. You can see there's a lot of cards laid out here for her. It seems like the dungeon is huge, but we got these 3 heroes over here. And let's start with the Fool. The Fool's going to die instantly in the first room. 2 health against this 4. So instantly dies. That's another soul. So we're up to 6 souls here for Cleopatra. The first thief is going to go through. It has 13 health. So it's going to take 7. And then it's going to take 10 as it goes through the 3rd room. Then it's going to take 12 in the 4th room. In the final room, it's going to be killed off, and that's going to be worth 2 souls. Epic heroes are worth 2 souls each. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The last thief is going to go through, which is 11, which is obviously smaller than the last one. So it's going to die as well before it can make it all the way through the dungeon. And that's going to give Cleopatra the 10 souls that she's going to need to win the game. If Draculord had heroes and its adventuring phase was still happening, you would go ahead and process those heroes through the dungeon. You want to make sure every player at the table has a chance to run the heroes through, just to make sure that they don't also get enough points to win, but they don't have any heroes. So Cleopatra is going to be the winner in this game of Boss Monster by first getting the 10 souls. That's a good thing too, because there was only 3 hero cards left, so it was down to the last draw of the cards. I played the middle portion a little bit more strategically, just to make it so that the game had a little bit more interest here at the end. But hopefully this gave you enough turns to see whether or not you like Boss Monster. I think it's a nice fun game that brings back that 8-bit retro era style video games and kind of wraps it up into a nice little fast-paced card game that just about anybody can get into. The rules aren't too difficult to learn. The abilities on the cards aren't too complex. So again, I think anybody that likes video games, retro video games, and card games might find a lot of fun here in Boss Monster. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let us know if you did by giving us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys all later.